Hey, Frank here. Welcome to Springer's Adventures. Gonna do a little video today about trying to put the correct battery in my 1978 FXS Lowrider, my old shovelhead. So, didn't think this would be a issue or a problem trying to find an original style battery to fit down in there, but ended up being a little bit more of a problem than I thought it was. So the problem started with is when I was trying to find a battery. So if you go online, type in 1978 Shovelhead FXS Lowrider, you'll come up with a variety of different batteries and stuff like that. So one of the first sites I happened to check to, because I get a lot of parts from them, is Dennis Kirk. Now Dennis Kirk had, on their site, said that the correct battery for this particular bike was a YTX 20H-BS. Which dimensionally is like 6 7/8 inches wide. So if you're sitting there looking at the bike going left to right, 6 1/8 inch tall going up and down, and about 3 1/2 inches wide sitting in the battery tray. And you would think that fit in there, but it was awful tight fitting in there. Now that is the same size battery as a ETX 20, which is in very common most softails. Now the difference is on the softail motorcycles, like from the 2000s and from the 90s and stuff, they were L on the end of that number there. L meant that the poles were in a different position. The position for this bike, you need one without the L. So I did have a battery, and we'll go through there and show you how that went in there. The next site I happened to go to was JP's site. Now JP says they call for a YB16/B-CX. Now a 16 is a different size than a 20. A 16 is the same height, the same length, but it's about 4 inches wide as opposed to 3 1/2. So it actually fills up the battery tray a little bit more. So that would be a good thing, you would think, right? I mean, fill it up. And also a bigger battery, a little bit more reserve, you normally think. Now, I called over, because we live here in Central Florida, to the local JP's one over in Daytona, which is only about an hour and a half or so away from me. And when I went over to talk to the gentleman over there, they recommended a YTX-20H. Now we're back to the 20, so it's the smaller one. Now here's where the confusion comes in. Is it a 20 or is it a 16? And also, the one on JP's site, the one that I first want to give you, the YB16, was only a 240 cranking amp. And that seemed awful small for an electric start bike. So I called up Harley. I called up the local one down in Leesburg, Florida, and they actually gave me a part number, and I'll link that below down there for you, from the original battery. Now, I couldn't find anything on the internet showing me the original battery linked to any of these numbers here. So what I did was I called up East Penn Battery Company, which is outside of Allentown, Pennsylvania, and is the home of Deka Batteries. And if anything knows anybody about Harley batteries, Deka is the manufacturer of Harley batteries. So, and they're also found at a lot of different places. I think they brand them under Duracell. There's several different companies that put out batteries and they just private market them. Napa batteries are also a Deka battery. So there is a lot of different places, and we actually have a local place here in town which sells the Deka batteries in the Deka box. So it is the true one, and it was probably about 50, 60 bucks cheaper than anywhere else in town. So that's where we end up going. So let's go through this and I'll show you how they fit and how it's supposed to fit. All right, so here's the factory battery tray for the FX models. I did make this little piece of rubber matting here because you can see there's the bolts underneath that hold the solenoid right there. And they kind of stick up a little bit, so I just made the old piece of inner tube, cut it, just put a little rubber mat underneath there. So let's show you how the batteries fit in there, and I'll show you the dilemma on how it went. All right, so we're going to show you the first battery style that does not fit very good. You can make it fit, but it doesn't fit very good. So this is a ETX20L. Now this is a very common softail battery. This is an old battery out on my softails. The polarity is actually in the opposite positions. than what you need, because that's why the L is. So this battery is actually facing out. It needs to go into a different direction. So if you were getting this battery an L, you would not want any L. Now this is the battery that Dennis Kirk, they show a YTX that I was talking about, 20 battery. And then obviously the salesman at the JP as well told me about getting a YTX 20H battery. So the 20H batteries, which all three of them, the two that I just spoke about and this one, are all exactly the same size. They're about 6 7/8 wide going this way. They're 6 1/8 high going this way. And they're a little, about 3.5 inches in depth right there. But as you can tell, if you try to put this battery in, and I'll just put it in, try to put it in the correct way, it will fit if you force it. If you force it, all right, here, I'm gonna force it in there and then I'll show you. All right, it will fit in there. Height is not a problem. But you can see it is so stinking tight in here, and I don't know why, but it is very, very tight. Now, like I said, this is supposedly a Deka battery that Napa sells, which is made by East Penn, but it is so tight in there. It's just unbelievable. Obviously, like I said, they are in the wrong location, but I mean, you could change your wiring if you wanted to, but if you wanted to keep it in a stock location, it would be like that. But now the really problem comes in if you try to put the battery cover on. Hold on, let me grab that and I'll show you. All right, so here's an original style battery cover. They make different ones, all different styles. Some of them don't have any vents on it like this one. This one has like louvers on it. But if you were to go put that in there, it will not go in. I don't care how much you try to force it. There is just no room to put that in there any which way. Now, this side over there, you could tell it's cut out and it sits on top of that lip right here where my finger is. But this side is supposed to slip down in and go between the battery and the tray. I know that for a fact because I could even still see from when my cousin originally had the bike how it fit in there. So you know it was fitting in there. So that's supposed to fit on top, fit in there and slide in. And then of course, the top goes on, the battery, there is actually a chrome cover goes on top. Let me grab that for you. So it would sit on top. It actually has rubber underneath, and then it sits on top of the battery, and it goes like that. And that's okay. That would fit in there fine. And then you have your strap that goes across there. Let me grab that. So here's the factory strap. It goes down. It catches underneath there. There's a little slot for that to grab in. Comes across, and then it goes down in there. And then there's a nut that fits right down in the bottom down there where I'm pointing with my finger. So that's not a problem. So yeah, this size battery, you could technically fit in there, but you would never be able to get a factory style cover on the outside of it unless you were to actually notch out the cover where it didn't fit down in there, because there is definitely no room between here and here. So now let's go to the one that East Penn Deka actually recommended. So let me grab that one out, which I just bought. So we'll see that one and see how it fits in there. All right, so this is the Deka East Penn battery. It's an ETX 16, like I showed in the box there. Fit right down in there where it's supposed to. The poles are in the correct position, because here's the factory wiring. It goes up to it right there. The negative is on that side over there, so that all fits great and everything like that. Gonna grab the I'm gonna grab the original cover and check this out. It just slides right in, just like it's supposed to. And of course, the cover fits right on top like it's supposed to. So, what am I telling anybody? If you had problems trying to find an original style battery, and like I said, there's tons of other batteries that'll fit in this box, or you can make fit in there. You can get smaller ones, you know, to fit in there. You can find cheaper ones and stuff like that. I was just trying to find the original one to fit in there because I know the original ones worked. And this one obviously fits in there just like it's supposed to. So of course, if you don't want to run the battery cover on there, it's not a bad looking battery. It's going to be a black battery, just like the Harley ones are. The only difference being, usually the Harley ones have the bar and shield embossed into that plastic area, but it's kind of like a nice matte black finish battery right there. So it's not a bad looking battery at all they have in there if you don't want to use the cover. But I definitely want to give a shout out to East Penn Battery Company, like I said, in Pennsylvania. Karen in particular, if it wasn't for her, I mean, she was very knowledgeable. When she asked me about the bike, I told her it was a 1978 FXS Lowrider, and as soon as I told her that, she goes, oh, my brother has a couple shovel heads, you know? So it's like, wow, she knew exactly what I was talking about, which I could say to local dealership when I told them that it was a 1978 FXS and not the one in in Leesburg, because those guys are always pretty helpful. But the other one locally to me, they didn't even know what it was, so they weren't very helpful at that point, which is pretty common, I guess, anywheres. But super shout out to East Penn Manufacturing, Deka Batteries, for helping me out. Like I said, gave them the part number. They told me which one I needed, told me the correct cranking amps for it, and like I said, they're the OEM manufacturing for batteries for Harley, so I would hope that they knew what they were talking about, and they did not let me down at all. So, all right, let's keep going. All right, let's see how this thing fires it over. Well, no problem kicking it over. Sounds pretty good. Spun that sucker right over nicely. Another success. And the battery looks pretty good in there. So I hope this helps some people. It's just the stupid little stuff like this sometimes that frustrates you trying to figure it out. But I went through heck trying to figure out the correct one for this, but I'm glad I got it all together. So I'm going to go ahead and bolt that in there. Have any questions or comments, leave them below. If you need any additional information, just send me a message and I'll be getting to you just as soon as I can. And hey, thanks again for watching. As always, subscribe, give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that notification bell. Every time it does that, when I put a new video out, you'll get notified. Thanks so much, and hey, we're getting closer to seeing it out on the road in this old shovelhead. See you guys.